The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts, guests, or callers, and do not necessarily represent the opinions of WTBR-FM, its management, other producers, or sponsors.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to Backstory. Let's hear it on WTBR-FM Pittsville with Roberta McCulloch-Dews. Thanks for tuning in. So, today we have with us a special guest. And the last name might seem a little bit familiar. So his name is Warren Dews Jr., and he's a local professional, a restaurateur. He dabbles in a little bit of everything, and he's an active member of the community. But the reason being why today's interview is so special is because we recently celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. And he's been asking me for a while to come on the show. And I've always said no. No. But I thought it was kind of fitting because, you know, it was a milestone anniversary. And he is an individual like any other. He has his own story. He has something to share. And in honor of our anniversary, I wanted to grant him that small gift.
20 years.
20 years. So, Warren, it's a pleasure.
I'm scared. I don't even know what to say. I could just get in trouble. That's all.
No, but it's a great thing. I know you've been asking for a while to be on the show. And, you know, before, definitely I had a few stipulations. But, you know, as is the plan to really get into the stories of people in our community, you are one of them. And, you know, I really wanted to allow this conversation for folks who may not know about you and maybe your backstory to get into that. So let's start with where you grew up.
Well, first of all, the reason why I want to get on this show is because I'm a fan of your show. I'm proud of what you're doing. Your show is a good show, and you're getting the backstory of people in our community and beyond that are doing things. And I, you know, not being cocky, but I think I'm one of those people. And I was like, hey, you should get me on. So it took me 20 years. 20 years.
It did not take you 20 years.
Anyway, I'm a young man from the Bronx, New York. I grew up in the Bronx, New York, in a place called Eaton Wall Projects. Mm-hmm. I went to private school for a little bit called Parkway. Mm-hmm. And then I went to John Philip Sousa Junior High School, which mm-hmm. I would say Eaton Wall and John Philip Sousa, Dr. Brindle, and that whole thing kind of turned my life.
So before we get into that, is your entire family, are you a New Yorker through and through?
Yes. I mean, my father's family, as I know it, is from West Virginia, mm-hmm. you know, but my father and mother, New Yorkers.
Okay, yeah. They're New Yorkers. Okay. And you were born in the Bronx?
Yep.
In the Bronx. Okay. So let's set the scene. You were, let's say, 1970s kid growing up. Mm-hmm. What was the Bronx like for you back then?
Well, it's crazy because when I go back to Eaton Wall and things of that nature and realize what I was growing up in, mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely different now. Mm-hmm. But when I was growing up in Eaton Wall Projects and places such as that, it was normal to me. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when my parents were able to get a private home somewhere. We had, you know, I always went back to my grandmother's house mm-hmm. because I was comfortable being there.
So you had two different perspectives growing up. You had your parents who were able to purchase a home, and then you had your grandmother who lived elsewhere.
So my grandmother, you know, I would stay at my grandmother's house during the week and mm-hmm. or, you know, go to school from there, and, you know, sometimes stay there and or go home. But when we got I was one of the only kids that had a father at home. Mm. Like a lot, my friends would say, "Were they going to see their father?" I was confused. Mm-hmm. Like, where's your father? Because my father was home, and then my father was, and it's like I'm doing that now. My father was like everybody's uncle. Mm. You know, everybody knew my father. His nickname was, you know.
What was his nickname?
They called him the Fat Man.
Oh, okay. But at the time, did you realize when your friends were saying these things and asking about like your father and father figures, what dawned on you at the time? Did you have a realization that something was different?
Not at first. At first, I had to really question that. Like when I started realizing, wait a minute, almost all my friends didn't have a father. I didn't realize it until the question was, I'm going to see my father. Mm-hmm. And most of them didn't have a father in the home, and I did. So that was the difference. But to your point of my childhood, I grew up in Eatonwall, and playing.
Can you explain what Eatonwall is for people who may not know?
Eatonwall Projects is one of the largest projects, I believe, in the Bronx or in the city, especially at the time it was built. It's a place where I still have friends that live there to this day. If they don't live there, their kids probably still live there. But it's the type of place when I see someone from Eatonwall and I see them doing some amazing things, we look at each other and go, man, you made it. Because you can go the wrong way, and so there's a lot of people that grew up there that they're doing amazing things now, and that lifestyle got them to do that because they realized they wanted something better.
So you were at a crossroads, I gather, where you saw your contemporaries doing things that perhaps weren't making the best choices, and then you saw some who were. What was you mentioned your dad. What was the deciding factor for you to walk on the right side of things? Church,
singing. I tell people all the time, I sit on the board for Barrington Stage, and my thing that I always say there is music and art saved my life. John Philip Sousa, that's where I started singing, mainly in church, but I was singing there, and I sang a song with my father. My father and I was known for singing. We sang a song together. My father was a singer. So always singing and doing something like that kept me out of trouble. Definitely in church, singing in the choir.
When did you know you had a gift?
I guess in church when I was younger. My father can sing as well. And I don't know exactly that time, but I would say 7, 8, or 9, singing in the choir and realizing I had a
so I got to ask you, everyone has their moment, their aha moment, where they're like, this is it for me. Like, I know that this is what I want to do with my life. Did you start singing, by accident, someone said, hey, you sound great. Do you have a first memory of when this song came out of you?
I've kind of been always singing in church, so I can't really. I would say junior high school was the time when other people started realizing I could sing. People that went to church with me, all of us were talented, singing church, playing drums or something. And so that was kind of like the norm. Like people would just play basketball. I sang in church. I believe thinking about your question and thinking about that time when I kind of realized is when other people realized that is in junior high school when I started singing in the choir. So it was outside of church. And I met Mark South, Eric Miltier, my guy Bob Brown, Greg, a friend of mine named Greg that kind of led our group. So I would say junior high school is when I learned that.
So while all of this is going on and you have this gift and you're operating in your gift and doing these great things, there's also a national conversation going on about the Bronx at the time because you are a kid of the 70s and you grew up in the 80s too. And we all know the whole theme of the Bronx is burning. And yeah, granted, that was the South Bronx, but the Bronx in general got painted with a broad brush of negativity. When you were in it, and even though you had these crossroad moments, what was life like for you growing up? Because I grew up in the Bronx too, and I have memories and really good memories. So did the whole national element and backdrop cloud how you felt your childhood went for you?
Like I explained to you before, to me it was normal. So I was fine with my surroundings. I think about the things now. I remember us doing backflips on dirty mattresses. We would find a mattress in the garbage and people go out there and that was your gymnastics. You do backflips and I would never think about doing something like that now.
Yeah, of course.
But that was cool. It was, we saw this mattress and take it out and think about the concept of this mattress was dirty sitting in the garbage. Your face expression on that is you would never do that. But that was a normal thing. So the things that we were used to, now I see it from the outside looking in. I can't imagine that was fine with me.
Right. Because it's all you knew.
It's all I knew. And then a lot of people, they would stay in their area. So it's all they knew. There's people that never left the Bronx. Let alone go into another borough. They just never left the Bronx or never left Eatonwall. So when you started doing other things, the other big step was going to Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School.
We definitely want to get into that. And before we get into that, you mentioned two things, which I think is really important. You mentioned the name of your junior high school, which is John Philip Sousa. So again, for listeners who may not know some of the names, Sousa was your junior high school, and you mentioned principal.
Dr. Brindle.
Dr. Brindle. So I liken it to, was he like a Joe Clark from Lean On Me?
Exactly.
Okay, because Lean On Me is one of my favorite all-time movies. Anyone who knows me, Catherine, I'm looking at you. Anyone who knows me knows that I love Lean On Me. And Joe Clark is one of my faves. So tell me about Dr. Brindle.
He was amazing. Like, one of the things they did when you went to school, when you went to school, they checked your bag, and they said they were checking to make sure you had your notebook. They was probably checking it for other reasons, But on certain days, you had to wear a white dress shirt. So if it was your what do you call it? I can't think of it right now.
The button down?
Yeah, you had to wear a white dress shirt because it was your day for an event. I can't think of the event right now, but it was a day you went into the auditorium and you did something. But that day you had to wear your white dress shirt. This is a public school. He almost made it like a private school.
Right.
And if you didn't wear your white shirt, you got in trouble.
And this was before New York City mandated uniforms.
Yeah.
This is the 80s, right?
I was in school at 80, 83, 84, 85.
Yeah.
Around that time in junior high school. So this man turned that junior high school into almost like a private school. And he was no joke. Like he didn't care if you. I remember him yelling at me one time, "Mr. Dews, you're late," and my father was in the car.
Yeah.
And my father took off. And Dr. Brindle was like yelling at me, and he didn't care who, he was well respected by the parents, by everyone. And Miss Brown, who died a couple of years ago, she was another one. She was in music.
Yeah.
So
your music teacher.
My music teacher. Just another person that just changed my life. So that's when I started realizing I had a gift. And my gift was, making room for me.
All right. So you had these awesome adults in your life. You had your family, but then you had the broader community. And a lot of times we think about the impact of community that goes beyond the family unit, but it goes really into the people, the teachers, people who are just dropping seeds of support into other people's lives, whether it be students or kids in the community or whoever. So you had that. And then something amazing happened, because after junior high school, you then began a commute to New York City, to Manhattan, for a specialized school. And this is a school that a lot of folks would know because it's based on the TV show Fame that came on in the 80s. So do tell how all of that came together.
So just before that, I want to talk about, Greg Kelly, Mark South, Robert Brown, Ron Taylor, Scott Van Putten. Those are all the people that I was in a group with. I mentioned Eric Mutier. Our group was known across the Bronx and across New York City in the church thing as Baby Commission. Like we were singing all over the place. We opened for the Winans and things of that nature. So we started getting a name for ourselves. And then from that, I got a chance to try out for music and art. Fiorillo H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art. I tried out for that school and I made it in.
Was it like the show? Where you had like a panel?
Yeah.
And you had to sing?
You had to sing. You had to sing in front of people. You had to do some type of sight, like tap things and repeat back. And yeah, you had to sing in front of people. And you're singing in front of people that are singers. It's like how can I say it? It's like a high school student being the top high school player in football or something. Yeah. Then you go to college and there's other beasts around you. So
you felt in that moment like, did you question your gift?
No, I don't.
So
no, I didn't question my gift. I think I sung "The Greatest Love of All." I was nervous, but I didn't question my gift. And then you realize, and this is not I just was blessed. Even amongst those beasts, I kind of stood out. When I got into the school, I got in a thing called solo voice. So not everybody was in that class, So yeah, it was a blessing, and I joke all the time. But I was around beasts like Ayanna George. I joke all the time. I could sing.
So who is Ayanna George?
I'm explaining. So I could sing, and I think I sing rather well. But if Ayanna's on the ticket and I'm singing after her, I'm not singing after Ayanna. Ayanna George is someone that I love dearly. I've watched her career. She's a friend of mine who went to high school with me. and I worked with her on her career and certain things. You know, I help manage certain things. She does her own thing, but she's now on Broadway playing Michael Jackson's mother. She sung background for John Legend, Alicia Keys, you name it. I could just go down to Jasmine Sullivan.
So let's stay there for a second, because I think one of the greatest things that you had from this experience, you went to this really amazing school where people who now, you mentioned Ayanna, who, yes, if you've been to Broadway and you've seen that show, and again, she is a powerhouse. And so her name is just, it's up and coming. And there are others who are in the industry that you literally can say, it's like a who's who. Literally can say, oh, I went to school with that person.
Marlon Wayans, Jennifer Aniston, Omar Epps.
Yeah,
you know,
all these folks.
Vanessa Hidary, who some people might know her name, whatever. I mean, you love Vanessa, you know, Vanessa Hidary. There's I could throw a bunch of names out there.
Yeah. And so it's part of that experience. I almost think of this cauldron of immense talent as a young person. Like, you don't know who your peers are going to be at the time. But imagine if you had a rear view looking back and to think about you were surrounded by all this talent.
Well, it's funny you said it, because you definitely didn't realize the type of school you went to until after the fact. But at the same time, though, when I was watching The Cosby Show, which was a top show at the time, I'm watching this TV show like millions of other people. Yet tomorrow when I go to school, I'm in the cafeteria with Carl Payne or Robert, or Dondre Whitfield.
Yeah.
Like, they were on TV last night.
Yeah.
And they're in my cafeteria.
That's amazing.
So I
got to ask you a question. Did folks treat them differently, like, because you just saw them on TV?
Not at all, because everybody was talented. I mean, we were proud of them. You know, there was and a lot of people like Maurice Latcher. I can't pronounce Maurice's last name, but Maurice. If you ever go to a thing where Bill Cosby's in the classroom and he's telling people to get an education, and there's one kid saying his talent can take him somewhere, and he asked the kid to sing. It's Maurice. That's my friend,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't treat them different. Like, I was good friends with Dondre Whitfield.
Yeah.
Carl and I almost had a fight, one time, because he was older than me. He tried to, it was something. It was something about if you rip somebody's patch off, Lee patch, the Lee jeans.
Oh, okay.
That if you took it to VIM or
you're
someplace.
You're really dating yourself.
Yeah, I don't care. Anyway, we treated them regular, because they were in school with a bunch of other talented people, so they were treated regular. Yeah. Other people was treating them like stars. We didn't care.
Well, that's interesting. I think, again, going back again to that talent, but the fact that so many have continued on in that field. So you have this amazing experience, and again, for someone like myself, who I remember watching the show with Debbie Allen in the 80s. I remember watching that, and I remember thinking, this is amazing. And to know that this is what you experience. And I think, one of the questions I've always asked is, was it like that where people would just bust out and dance in the cafeteria and stand on tables and like have all this impromptu creativity?
And it was funny because I was talking to people at our reunion a couple of weeks ago. Some people said that's not true. It did happen sometimes. Yeah, it did. I mean, it did happen. I remember like singing in the cafeteria. We would beatbox and battle. So you had people that were talented. Like say somebody was an artist, but they can also rap. So we would battle in the cafeteria. We would do those things. You can go upstairs to the dance floor, and girls that you were friends with were in there dancing and stretching and whatever. You can have a friend that was an actor, and you go downstairs. Downstairs was the instruments and the drama on one side. I had a friend one time. I saw her in the lobby. I mean, in the hallway, and she was crying. And I went over to try to figure out what's going on. She was getting ready for a part.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, stop, no, I'm getting ready for a part. So you had that around the school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And people were serious about their craft. And we had amazing people there. And not everybody kept continuing with their career. I think me being able to sing in front of people allows me to do what I do. Because I'm not scared to be in front of thousands of people.
So let me ask you, you go through these 4 years. And I'm curious, too, about the whole juxtaposition between you being in this cauldron of talent and then you go back to the Bronx. And it's almost like you're operating in two worlds. And if you didn't understand it before, I think you do now. Like, your world is different. What did that make you think about with graduation nearing and thinking about what you wanted for the future? How did that help to shift your goals in any way?
Well, let me come back a little bit because you had me think about something. When we were talking about earlier about my friends, like, you know, when I got into to high school, because I didn't go to the local high school, I kind of and I stopped going to my grandmother's house so much, I kind of got away from some of my friends, and so during that time, when I reconnected with them. Some kids that I grew up with, they were really nice kids, and I loved them. They were really good. Some of them got into the wrong things. So I have friends that sold drugs that I would never think you would never think they would sell drugs, because I knew them when we were playing basketball and playing, you know, little games with cards and stuff like that. We had a little fake football game where you press the football and the guy would move around. I remember that.
Yeah.
And so you got me thinking, like, when I went to high school and separated from them, that was the change in my life, because I wasn't going to their local high school. I wasn't around that, and I didn't get into those things. So I have some friends. I have one friend I can think of, and I can say his name. The older brother became a police officer. The younger brother, you know, sold drugs and got in trouble, you know. Like, whoo. And their mother was really strict, you know.
Did that make you like an outsider? Because now you're different. Now you're doing something different. You have this path. Did they still see you as Warren from the neighborhood, or were you like, who are you?
Yeah, it depends on the person. You know, you can hear. So I believe that growing up there got me. I can go into any sides of the tracks like you and I do now. We on both sides of the tracks because we're comfortable in both places, you know, especially me being comfortable in both places. So if there were people that said, you know, you think you're all that or whatever, that was their problem, not mine, especially when I got signed with Atlantic Records. You know, people were like, oh, you think you... No, I thought I was kind of all that before. So that didn't change. Right. No, I was confident in myself before.
Yeah.
I didn't need... We could talk about this later, but I didn't need, you know, Omega Sci-Fi, which I love. I didn't need a title for something else to be...
What's
man.
Omega Sci-Fi?
Omega Sci-Fi is my fraternity, which I love dearly. But there's some people that needed Omega or needed their fraternities to become who they were. Right. I didn't need it; just enhance who I was.
And yes, I do know what Omega Sci-Fi is. For anyone listening, it's just for the viewers and listeners, I should say. So, all right, continue. So, I want to know though that you have this experience. You're in high school. You're in these worlds. Graduation is coming up, high school graduation, and you mentioned Atlantic Records. So please place the time frame. When did Atlantic Records come into the mix?
So the group that I was talking to you about, the Gospel Heralds, was the group. We were singing gospel. We were known around the town of gospel. We were about to sign with Jam Master Jay. We were going to be Jam Master
with who?
Run DMC, the famous group Run DMC. We were going to be Jam Master Jay's first group before Onyx, before Afros, before all those other things. We were coming out with Jam Master Jay, and then I went away to school in '88. And then we started Eric Miltier in our group. I think he was down with Untouchables. And then we started doing things with Untouchables, Eddie F., Heavy D and the Boys, Eddie F. And we got signed with Atlantic Records in '95. So my group kind of broke up but kind of stayed together.
Okay. So I'm trying to do the math now. So you graduate high school and then went on to college?
Went on to college.
Okay.
And then when I came back in '93, I still was doing stuff with the group.
Got it. All right.
Yeah, and then we got signed in like '95. The group came back together. It was a different group. Instead, we wasn't singing gospel anymore. We were doing some.
Was that a big shift?
It was.
Move from gospel to the secular.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, one of our songs that we were coming out with was called "Nasty Love."
All right. So.
So it was a big switch.
That must not have made the folks in the church happy.
It whatever the case may be, we didn't care, but it didn't work out. You know, I mean, the group was amazing. And people have done some amazing things. My group, Eric Miltier and Mark South, have songs out there that you probably heard before.
But I need to ask a question though, because you got your start singing in one genre. Did you feel that in order to break out in the industry, or that Atlantic Records at the time, is that something that they needed you to make that shift so that they could sign you? Yeah.
I mean, you know, back in the day, you couldn't see certain words like Jesus or things like that on the radio, and things started switching and changing. And then, you know, the money was in, you know, in doing R&B and that type of stuff. So that we wanted to be famous. We wanted to make money. We wanted to use our talents to do that.
And everyone was in agreement and said, we're going to do this.
Well, except Greg Kelly, the oldest gentleman. Greg, Google him. He's done amazing things with, gospel across the world. Greg is still doing it. Greg was the center of the group as far as the gospel end of things. So when we went to Atlantic Records, Greg wasn't with us anymore at the time. So, but that didn't pan out, and then I fell back on my bachelor's and started crawling with that.
All right. So the Atlantic Records, how long were you signed for?
I was pledging at the time. I think we signed in 95. We were with Untouchables, I think, a couple of years. I really don't remember exactly. I remember taking a private plane from Richmond, Virginia, to New York to sign contracts.
Really?
Yeah. I remember being the only one on the plane with a stewardess, and I was excited until I started bumping up in that air.
So Atlantic Records flew you out?
Yeah.
In the short time that you were signed and had all these things, you didn't really get a full taste of like the record, the industry, did you?
I mean, kind of. So at that time when we were signed, I was going back and forth to school. And so we were at parties with Biggie Smalls and Puff Daddy and all those other places. Jam Master Jay, whose birthday was the same birthday as yours, January 21st, and my sister's, Jay used to always have a birthday party.
Thank you for sharing my birthday with the world.
It doesn't matter. You shouldn't have me on the show. Want me to tell your age too? But so January 21st was Jay's birthday, and I always had to go back to school. The January something, so I always missed that party. So I wasn't always there for those things. I had to go back to school. But we were in all that stuff. We were around, like I said, Biggie and all that stuff. We were around.
Did that give you a big head? Because did you feel like now, like you're rubbing shoulders with all these people who are famous? Well, actually, at that time, was Biggie as famous? Because he was just coming out.
Yeah, I can only answer that like this. I'm going to answer it this way. My father, who to me was one of the smartest people I knew, my father couldn't read. My father was illiterate, but he owned a pizza shop. He owned an auto body shop. He just did things,
He was a doer.
He was a doer, and he got things done. Here's my point. My father had a confidence in himself that he was the man. I didn't need anything else to make me feel that I was something. I already felt that I was something. And it's not a cocky statement. I was just very confident in myself.
That's something you got from your dad.
Yeah. I didn't need Atlantic Records to think I was the man. I didn't need whatever that thing is. I didn't need that. I felt that already.
Okay. So the Atlantic Records experience, you were hobnobbing, rubbing shoulders, but you were still able to be you, but it didn't last long. It
didn't last long. I mean, and I want to go into the details of that, but it was some of the things that we were doing where, a lot of the stuff we were doing, like going to the parties or, ordering food while we were in the studio and all the other stuff, we didn't realize we were paying for that. Like all that. Yeah.
So that was coming out of your money.
Exactly. And I don't want to get deep into that here. But
isn't that what they always talk about, too, when you hear, like, especially when they have those shows of, like, behind the scenes, and they talk about people who have these contracts and they're touring and they're doing all these things and they're making all this money, and then come out and they're like, they have pennies.
Yeah, this is why when I try to help others, I really, in my heart, want to help other artists and people, and I work hard to help other people, and I try to give them. I don't think people understand. Like, I'm telling you what I know. Like, don't do these things. It's happened to me. We were spending money and spending studio time that we were getting charged for at someone's house that was charging the record label.
You didn't know it.
No, and basically we were paying their mortgage.
Did you end up having to owe? Like, or did it? Was it a wash?
Yeah, it probably was a wash. No one came after me for money. But what I'm saying is, we didn't have a management company watching that and watching it, because Roberta, we all of us can sing. We were coming out after Intro. If anybody knows the group Intro, they did amazing songs.
They were an R&B group in the 90s.
In the 90s, they had one singer that was off the hook.
Yeah,
we all can sing. Right, all of us can sing. So they called us the next level of Intro, and so if we would have finally got that chance, it would have happened for us, but it didn't.
Well, they say the music industry can be brutal. And so it's, I think the artists who are coming out today have they utilize a lot of the life lessons of people who came out before. There are a lot of folks who, you even hear the stories about, was it a TLC? I mean, all of those stories of folks who they have gifts, but then they got burned. And so I think what you see with this crop of artists is that they have heard. And so people are smart. They want their masters. They want to own things. They want to make sure that they read those contracts through and through, so that those same experience, won't be their own. So, you had this moment, and then it's almost like an eclipse, right? Because there's this brightness, and then it's like, all right, it ends. Did you have to adjust back to sort of like, all right, that contract, that's done, I'm not signed anymore, back to the quote unquote real world?
So, when I was going in the studio doing music, I was working for the Gannett newspaper company in White Plains, New York. And at this time, I got my bachelor's in 93, signed in 95. And when that didn't happen, I realized, wait a minute, I got a bachelor's. So I had to fall back on my bachelor's, and I started growing with the Gannett company. Shout out to Olivia Lamel, a big sister of mine. She was the HR person there, and they were looking to hire someone. And I was a telemarketer. I was a very good telemarketer. I could excel. And they were going out to look to hire a telemarketing manager. She was like, wait a minute, you got this guy up there as the acting telemarketing manager. He's one of your top salespeople. He's training. He's doing everything you need him to do. She wouldn't let them put an ad in the paper. She was like, hire him.
Okay.
And I got the job, and then I started growing with the company.
Okay.
So I owe so much to her and Virgil Smith and people like that. But that's when I started growing in the media business.
Okay, so you got your start in the industry as a telemarketer, and then worked your way up.
Yeah, and then went down to Asheville, North Carolina, and stuff like that.
I think it's important, especially when we think about like those first jobs, right? Because those first jobs in our career serve to be a foundation. It grants us tools, awareness. That's really where you cut your teeth. Would you say that those years were experiences that you learned a lot and that you take with you?
I mean, I've been in sales most of my life, so all those jobs, working, selling clothes in the mall, in the mall in White Plains is closed now. What was the name of it? I can't think of it. Galleria Mall. I sold Kirby vacuums, which was some of the, I'm telling you, some of the best training ever.
They were heavy.
Yeah, they were heavy, but the training for selling a vacuum, I don't even go into it, was just amazing to be in somebody's house and control their house and control the people that sold Kirby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that training was just amazing.
Yeah.
But,
we had a Kirby.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
We did have a Kirby when we lived in the Bronx. It was a very heavy vacuum.
So we didn't have we didn't have Kirby's in Edenwald. So you grew up in you were on the other side of the other side.
I was
of the
in
track.
the Bronx too.
Yeah, but on the other side of the track.
Okay. All right.
But no. Listen, it was all of those things. Cutting my teeth. But to me, it all stems from being able to sing and do things in front of others that didn't scare me from doing those other things.
So you have really good training, and I think that's important because you weren't, it basically, again, if you think about your life, it basically was like a domino effect where everything, the piece before contributed to the piece after and the piece after. All right, so you have this great career that you have mentors, you have people who pretty much help to give you opportunity. And so connect with me that sense of that mentorship, that opportunity, and how you view your role as a community member in terms of that giving back and that service.
So everything that I try to do, I try to help others, and always try to think of someone else, and use my talent of networking and building relationships is to help others. It is, this, you get mad at me sometimes, but especially with talented people, it's like a drug for me to go to an event that I'm involved in and see someone up there singing or acting or spoken word. I love it. I love it. I love that their talent is being shared, and I had something to do with it. And it's not a financial thing that I need right now. It was just the joy of being involved in it. It's a drug for me. Like seeing Ayanna Jackson now. It's funny. She got married. Ayanna Jackson.
Okay.
Or Vanessa Hidley or Raish, as she was up here a couple of weeks ago. When I see them performing and doing their thing, I just love it because And it's I don't look at it like some people might think, I wish I was on stage doing it. I don't care about that. I'm involved in it, and you know, I like it.
Do you feel like you live out some of your, like, in growing up in that and being a part of that? Does that in some way sort of fill you in that capacity?
It fills me by showing people's gifts. That it's I don't understand how to explain it. Like, for instance, you know, as you know, we own 2 restaurants, right? I don't need to be the center of that attention. I want everybody to know that Xavier Jones is God gifted in what he does. And I'm involved in this. I'm happy to be involved in it, but it is his dream. My dream is to help other people with their dream. And so when people talk about our restaurant, how great it is, I didn't cook a thing in there. All the stuff coming out the kitchen is something Xavier has dreamed up and taught other people to cook. I'm involved in it because I'm helping in other ways. But I still get the excitement of people enjoying themselves through his dream.
So that is your motivating factor.
That's my dream.
So let's talk a little bit about service in the community and what that looks like here in the Berkshires, because, you know, you've lived in different places, the Bronx, you lived in the Hudson Valley, you've lived in Asheville and, you know, parts of the South and New York. So in the Berkshires, when you think about service, apart from the arts, what does that mean to you?
So you said apart from the arts. I want to make sure that everyone on all sides of the tracks in the Berkshires loves the Berkshires and sees the Berkshires as you and I see it. I love this place. Like, love this place. I love the fact that I can be at Barrington Stage one evening, next day I'm at Jacob's Pillow, next day I'm at, you know, Colonial Theater, or I'm down at we're going to Tanglewood on 4th of July. I love that, and all that's in the Berkshires. But when I go to these things, if I see another black person, a person of color, we look at each other like we got away. It's like you got out, you know.
Listen here, I gave you a warning before the show started. We're not going to do this.
The point that I'm making is that I want to see more people of color, not from here and from here, to enjoy this place the way you and I enjoy it.
Well, I think one of the things is that people, and, you know, sometimes it's the unfamiliar, right? And it's not a matter of not necessarily wanting to go, but maybe it was an experience that they didn't have previously. And I think what we're seeing more and more, and of course the numbers are increasing, but we're seeing folks who are having those experiences and sharing them. And, you know, I often think about social media as it's something we have to have, and we need it, especially if you're in, you know, depending on your work and things like that. But when you think about that experience sharing, and when someone has this wonderful time and they talk about it, that makes the next person who is watching and listening say, oh, that looks like something I want to get into. Let me try that. And based on that account, they will take the word of that person and their experience and trust it and say, I will go. So maybe they may never, you know, go based on a brochure or something like that, but they will listen to a trusted person and say, because you went there, I'll check it out. I'll go. And we're seeing more of that, where people are sharing. They're going to all these different places, and they're talking about how great it is. I think about a couple years ago when the Mount was doing some advertising around their winter lights. And, you know, they were basically, I remember being a part of a group, we were a cohort that was doing some work around just looking at some of the arts and the cultural engagement in our area. And we talked about how basically on social media, people were sharing and talking about that they were going to this thing, and it became like a must see, a must do. And based on this organic amplification, people wanted to go on their own. So we see how all of that can help to change numbers. And like you said, the Berkshires is a beautiful place. I'm convinced and I'm hopeful that more people will, who haven't experienced it for whatever reason, will do so. And
it's not. Let me make sure it's not just separated between the color barriers, which are very important to me. I want to make this the Martha's Vineyard that Black people go to. Martha's Vineyard. I want them to come here, but being part of the Berkshires, it's also economic. There's people, no matter what color they are, they don't get to enjoy everything the Berkshire has, and I want them to share it. Before I forget this, and it's just popped up in my mind. If I had the money, and I'm going to have it one day, but if I had the money right now, I would take St. Joseph, that school, and I would make it a fame school. I would make it a school like the high school I went to, and I would go after kids from all over the world to send their kids to go to school here, to go to high school here. That would be my dream. So think about that. If that happened, these young people, if you're singing, you can go sing it at a show at Colonial Theater, Tanglewood, Barrington Stage. If you want to build a stage, you can build a stage in one of these places. You and I went to Barrington Stage the other day. We've been there a million times, and every time you go, you see the stage.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different. The work to do that.
Yeah,
it's a talent.
Yeah.
See, if you was a dancer, you could be dancing at Jacob's Pillar. You can go to school right here. That would be my wish if I had the money to do that.
Yeah. So, I think that there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. And you put it out there. So maybe, who knows? It's all, you have to have a vision. You have to have a dream. And I think when you're talking about the power of the arts, it made me think about that we all connect with community in a different way. And for you, what I'm hearing is that the arts is how you plug in to your service for the community. Yeah.
Sports too, and anything that brings people together. Arts, sports, football, all that stuff. But arts is my thing.
Did you play sports growing up?
Yes, I did. I was not organized. I played around the way. I went to play at Virginia State University, and I heard these kids 6 o'clock in the morning running around campus. It was a football team. I was like, okay, I'm not doing that.
Wait, you went to play football there?
No, I didn't go to play football. I thought about it.
Oh, you thought it? Okay.
I thought about it. It was a quick thought. But no, I was pretty good at football and all those things. Just I never organized. The point that I'm making is, now that our kids are all into it, you realize these things bring people together. But going back to my point, yes, arts saved my life. I am who I am today because I was singing or acting or doing something like that and not doing other things.
All right. So, I agree. I think there's a lot there. And it's often the first thing to be cut sometimes when money is budgets are tight. We know that a couple of years ago, I remember VH1 had Save the Music campaign, because again, you see when it's a tight fiscal season, arts and music are the first to go. But when you have, what people don't realize is that arts and music actually serves to enhance science, math, technology, all these other things. It really is this sort of bastion of creativity from which all others can come from.
It's like Mark Vincent-Guerra, my business partner in the media industry, was talking today. It's like the newspaper industry. These people take over these newspapers and they cut the news staff.
Yeah,
it's the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Why would you cut? That's the key. Having people on the streets.
Tell me how you really feel.
It just makes no sense. To your point, you're getting rid of arts. Yeah. I went to school with people, lives have changed because they were doing something. And there was a time where they tried to change the way to get into music and art. They were basing it on your grades instead of your talent. And it was a big fight against that. I wouldn't be who I was today, who I am today, if I had to pass some class or some grade.
But that doesn't even make sense for that kind of school.
It was being fought,
Yeah.
But that kept me out of trouble and allowed me to become who I am today because, I was singing, and it made me focus, All
right, so that's quite the background, and that's quite the perspective. Tell me a little bit about, you have a lot happening. So apart from that service aspect and the why, which is I think really the crux of it. Your why. This is your why. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that people may have about you?
I guess they think I'm cocky. People could call me cocky in some ways, I believe. I believe, but I think a lot of people around here get to know me and know that anything that I'm doing, if I'm loud about it, I'm doing it for others. I think I've gotten that brand that I'm a guy out here trying to help others. But so that's the only thing. I think you could think I'm cocky, but so be it. I am. Get over it.
Gosh. Well, you just proved them, Warren.
It doesn't matter. My point of the matter is I'm cocky not for Warren. I'm cocky to make sure that others can come into the room. Right. And I'm going to bust through the door any way I can to make sure I let others in there.
See,
and if you think that I'm cocky, great.
See, I like the second version. I like the second version much better. I like
you like something. You've been around for 20 years.
I like the second version. I feel like, again, remember, you are a special guest today. Do not wear thin your invitation.
so I'll be sleeping on the couch the rest of the next 20 years. But no, all jokes aside, I think that might be a misconception, but I really can't answer that question deeply because I don't worry about what others think about my,
and that's good.
my downfalls or my negatives.
That's good.
I want people to know that I'm out here. When you see me, when I walk into a room, and you know I'm involved in something, you go, oh, Warren Dews is doing that? Oh, it's definitely probably something good. That's the brand. I ask our kids all the time, what's your name and who's watching you? And they say Warren Dews, West Dews, Kennedy Dews, and God's watching me. That's my key. I want my name to get me through a door. Not my money. I want to make money. I want to be $1 million one day.
So you want to be a person of integrity?
Yes.
Okay. You want to. Okay. So you want.
Well,
to be,
I am.
But no.
I want to be known as that.
Right. A person of integrity, and that's important because I think there were, regardless of what you may have, you only have your name, and your name, is your personal brand. And for better or for worse, your name will have a connotation to it. If you say any kind of name, whether it's a product name or whether it's an individual person, it will bring up some kind of image. And so I think it's for anyone to really think about when your name is called, what do you want it to be associated with?
I'm going to say this. So the other day when I Am Afro and the Berkshire Black Academic Council had the event at Mass Mocha, Rach was on stage, and I don't manage her. I have nothing to do with her career, but I've been helping her for the years, and I've been there for her. When she says, I'd like to thank the Berkshire Black Academic Council, and I'd like to thank Warren Dews, that hit my heart because I know that I've been there. And when people... Ayana called me the other day for Father's Day. Ayana's busy. She's doing a lot of things. She took the time out of the blue. I ain't speak to her in a couple of weeks, and she said, Happy Father's Day. To know someone that is who she is, who she's become, and I knew her from before, to take the time to say, when Kira DaCosta Little sang Happy Birthday with what's her name? The star? I can't think of it. Kira's a star enough, but they took the Monifa sung Happy Birthday to me that I went to high school with. When people take the time to do those things, it touches my life. When I'm so.
All right. So, I see that. Let me ask you this. In terms of what you're doing right now, that you're juggling a few things. I think maybe few could be an understatement. What are some of the things that you're juggling right now in this new phase of your life? Because you are not necessarily in the arts as a performer, as a contributor, but you dabble with it through your networks of individuals. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing professionally and what that looks like for you.
Well, one of the things I'm doing right now that I really enjoy always is the media. I'm the vice president of Capital Region Independent Media. My business partner, Mark Vinciguerra, who I've known for almost 30 years. We own papers. We own papers in Capital Region area, Albany, Washington County, Greene County, Columbia County, parts of Vermont. I love that. I love every day that I'm a part of media that makes a difference, and it's local. The other day, Mark and I was in a store, and a guy comes up and says, "Hey, when you doing your next video?" I don't live in Ravenna.
What kind of videos are you talking about?
I do Facebook Lives, and I interview. Sometimes I interview business people. I interview regular people, and people see me doing that. I do not live in Ravenna, but people know me because I am part of their paper that they grew up on.
Okay.
That's what I love about it. Like, I don't work at the Berkshire Eagle anymore, and people used to call me the paper guy. I love the Berkshire Eagle. I think that Berkshire Eagle is one of the best local daily papers in the country.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I put an ad in the Berkshire Eagle about our restaurant, actually a story, and people saw it. It reaches more people than anybody else does in these markets. I believe in local journalism. I believe in it from the bottom of my heart. I think it's very important.
Yeah, it is.
Print, digital, all, not just print, but both, all aspects.
It is.
And so I want to keep it going. So that's one of the things I'm doing now. The restaurant, the Firehouse Cafe and Big Daddy's. People love them, Now
we had Xavier on the show, I want to say maybe last year sometime, and he talked about his life as a culinary artist and as a chef, and so Xavier Jones he's a part of this dream. Yeah. So and Dooley is a good friend of ours. He's also part of the Big Daddy's dream. But I want to put this out there. If you want places like the Fire, people eat at the Firehouse and they literally leave there like they had a dream. They love it. They love it. They enjoy themselves, and it touches my heart when they leave there happy. If somebody leaves there unhappy, I want to fix it. We won't be around if you don't come. We need people to come. So we have the fame, but we don't have the fortune we need. We need people to come out. So take your time to come out. And one of the things, Berkshire, is please. I'm a kid from the Bronx, grew up and go to Brooklyn and all these other places. I can't stand when you say you live in like Lee and you talk about, I haven't been up there. Well, what do you mean? Everything is relative. Everything is relative, and you're right. If you come from the 5 boroughs and you take public transportation, and you is very different from and I think I got a taste of that when we lived in upstate New York, and in Horseheads, and it was different. There were people who never left Elmira to go to Corning. So I think perspective is relative, right? But I think if what you're saying is that it's not that far. It's not that far.
Basically, it's not that far. I have an ad out there that says, Boston's over 3 hours away, New York's almost close to 3 hours away. The Firehouse Cafe is minutes away from anywhere in the Berkshires. It could be 40 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. We're minutes. Come up, support us. We need you to support us. And Big Daddy's is knocking it out of the park because we have Bright Ideas is right next door, and you have this beautiful place called Mass Mocha. Okay. So that's doing really well.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think, it's that kind of business. It's definitely it's a grind and it's a hustle, and I think behind any kind of hustle and grind is love, and you have to love what you do. So I think that's a great thing. Tell me a little bit about, you have a thing coming up, a special thing that you're working on, and I think you mentioned that you wanted to share it, and you're going to have some media maybe following you on a journey, a personal journey of yours.
So, I'm 53 years old. And when you start getting to a certain age, you start going, wait a minute, like, am I going to be another 53 years? I don't know. I want to be around for a long time. I want to be around for a while. And I know that if I continue to go the route that I'm going with my weight, that I won't be. And, you've been fighting with me on this for years, and what I'm doing is not working. So I need to do something else. And so I'm going to be having the gastric bypass surgery. And I'm going to have my editor follow me about the story.
Wow.
And write the story. It's going to be probably in all my papers. So all the papers that I have, that the story is going to be in there.
I have to ask you something. What made you decide to go public with this? Because this is a surprise announcement. I don't think we knew that you wanted to.
The reason why, Roberta, and this is the thing that I say to you time and time again, what triggers me to do things for myself is if I'm affecting others.
Okay.
And in this way of getting people to follow me is going to change other people's lives. Now I'm game. I'm in.
Follow you in the sense of like a healthy lifestyle?
A healthy lifestyle. Okay. This, people could do it all different ways. Al Roker did it, and you can see, when you see pictures of Al Roker years back and you see him now, he looks like he's a different man, But I'm doing this because now it's game on. Because now it's not about, I got the piece that I need. It's not about me. It's about me helping others. And so I can't fail because I got to help others.
You've also shared it publicly, so now everyone knows. Well, and now it's like there's accountability.
It is. And here's the thing. Listen, you know, we've been together 20 years. You've pushed out 3 babies, and you look amazing. You know, I'm doing this not for you, not for the kids. I'm doing it for me first.
Yeah.
But I'm also doing it because I want to be here for you and the kids. And I'm not going to be if I don't have the health.
Well, this is deeply, deeply personal, revelation, and it's one that's very brave and very courageous, because there are a lot of folks who may think about doing these things, but they don't actually want to share it with the world. You know what I mean? And so for you to use this time to share something so personal and to share that you're actually going to make it really, broader to everyone to join you on this journey. That's a huge, huge thing. Wow. So I guess people can how will you share developments? When will they know?
So Melanie's going to write a story. Melanie, one of my editors for one of my papers, is going to write the story. The funny thing was, I also am a salesperson, so Amy, who works for us, she's going to probably talk to some advertisers that want to be advertising around this story. So you see, this my wife is like, there it goes, the curmudgeon.
Again.
Listen, I'm always trying to make things. Yeah. Listen, this is what I do. I use everything that I do to try to help. For instance, Big Daddy's and the Firehouse Cafe we're trying to give away.
Looking at the time, though,
500 backpacks.
Looking at the time,
I'm gonna use my network to do those things.
All right.
But anyway,
but it's all good, and I think that going back again to the personal journey, going back again to something that is that big, and for you to share that with the listeners today is a big deal. It's a big deal. And I can separate worlds. So I can take off I can put on my hat to say that is huge, and that's very brave of you. Very brave.
Well, I appreciate you. So that's my goal is to, I know we get time, but it's funny, when I started to make this decision, I was starting to get around people that's done it. And I'm like, how do you, there's one guy I knew for 20 years. And I buy stuff from him for newspaper stuff, and he did it. And we just got talking about it. He was 360-something pounds. He's 185 now. And he was talking to me about how his life has changed. Like, Warren, listen, I'm not on any medications anymore. My life has changed. I'm jogging. I'm doing all this other stuff. His wife also had it as well. She's lost over 100-something pounds. He doesn't have. He uses his sleep apnea machine because he's comfortable with it, but he doesn't really have to use it. So his whole life changed, and that's what I want.
All right. Well, I'm sure that as more developments unfold, you're going to have a ton of people rooting for you and supporting you and giving you all the love and support to help move you through this. So, we're coming to an end.
Yes.
And it's been a great journey hearing your story shared. I know parts of it, of course, but hearing you share it with a wider audience. And it's my hope that people were able to take from your journey and know that, again, what you see oftentimes is not where people start. It's a culmination of a lot that has gone into an individual. And we are reflections of that work that has taken place. None of us is an instant success. It is work over time. So with that, I need to ask you, if you had to choose one word to describe you, what would that be?
I've been thinking about this. Operator.
Okay, and why?
So if you look back in the day when you had to make a phone call, and when you called in, you had usually probably a woman or whatever, the operator would connect you to your call. And that's who I am. I'm that person that's sitting at the thing, you get the call, and I plug you in to connect to that next person. I'm the operator. I'm the behind the scenes connecting everyone. That's what I want to be.
All right, you got the last word. Thank you. So I want to thank you, Warren Dews, for joining Warren Dews Jr. on this special occasion. You are my special guest in celebration of our 20th wedding anniversary. I finally granted you your wish. All right, everyone. You've been listening to Backstory. Let's hear it on WTBR-FM, Pittsville with Roberta McCulloch-Dews. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and I hope you have a great day.